am the same. I talk like a trucker fighting a sailor in a biker bar. What are you going to do?
I'm excited. I'm an open book. I recover out loud, so I am open to anything that you want to talk about. I'm open to it.
Awesome.
I think you did such a good job. I think that it's important. I think you're doing great.
Hey, I want to hear everything. You look so freaking great. I can't even begin to tell you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Starve the Demon, where we believe in recovery by any means necessary. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm Mary, and she's going to tell us her story. We're not going to go into all the gory details because that's the same for everybody. The pain, the misery, the suffering, that's for everybody. We're going to talk about Mary's journey, where she's at, where she's going, how she got there. And I'm very, very excited. So, hi, Mary. Welcome to Starve the Demon.
Thank you, Jenna. I'm very honored to be here and talking with you. You're a
Awesome.
very big part of my journey, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That warms my heart. And you with me as well. This is where we get real about the fight for freedom from addiction. No fluff, no filters, just raw stories. She is
A RSS, a recovery sports specialist, an RCP, recovery coach professional. I practice both my RSS and RCP as a program manager for a nonprofit in Connecticut. I work with DMIS clients, my people who have substance use disorder, co-occurring disorders, and people with criminal history, people who are homeless. And my organization is very near and dear to me, and I wake up every day loving what I do because of recovery.
That is awesome. Mary is a warrior. She is a demon starver. So take us back. What did your life look like at its lowest?
My God, I didn't even know I was low, right? I was just so numb to everything that reality wasn't reality. I was homeless. I was living out of a car with my husband. We were living in actually a parking lot that I work maybe a mile from now, and I pass by every day. And we were very actively stealing. I was in police chases. I hit rock bottom and I kept going. I died 3 times. And I still was like, oh, I could keep going. I thought I was invincible. And I was just numbing myself because I didn't want to face reality. I was having, my mom has just passed away. Living out of the car and just doing all the things you do when this disease takes over you was my lowest.
What made you decide enough? I'm starving the demon. I'm not feeding it one more day.
What happened was my husband got arrested and I was by myself. Nobody was co-signing me anymore. I didn't have a partner anymore. And I was just like, wow, I'm doing this by myself now.
And alone on the streets, that's scary.
Right. I always had a protector and now I didn't have one anymore. And I was scared. And even then I was like, I have to just do this until he gets out. Right. But I knew that I knew I had to do something. And I went to one rehab and it was the worst rehab I've ever been to. I spent 30 days. I reached out to one of my family members and I'm like, listen, I don't know what to do after this. And she was like, well, come down to Florida, man, and I'll walk with you. And she did. And so I think it was that at that moment when she said that, because I know she went through some very similar things like me. She's in recovery and she's really is my savior. At that moment is when I was like, this is it. I think I have some kind of chance here.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, and I know her, audience. I'm hoping one of these days I'm going to get her on here. So now people say recovery is a process. They say it's a choice. They say it's a disease. My theory, it's a demon disguised as a disease, takes away your power of choice. There is a process to recovery, but it's not just a process. It's a war. We're in a battle for our souls, is my personal opinion. What are your weapons?
It's all about connection. Connecting with people who may not even have the same disease that we have. But I feel like the opposite of addiction is connection, right? You lose even your will to connect with anyone. I just wanted to numb myself. Connection is one of my biggest weapons. Yeah. I run AA meetings. I run smart recovery meetings. I'm very much involved in the recovery network here and a little bit in Florida as well. And that is my weapon, being able to connect with these people like me. And then love, man, and forgiveness and being humble is a weapon for me. If that makes sense, because addiction is surrounded by shame and embarrassment. And it takes a lot of humility to admit that you need help. And so humility has gotten me where I am now. Even last night, I had such a beautiful moment with someone who I hurt in recovery, and my weapon of humility allowed for me to ask for forgiveness, which is hard.
Listen, I'm glad that you brought up having a conversation from somebody in your early recovery. When we are doing our step work and we're making our amends, we're on step 9. There's a myth I'd like to dispel that you can't move to step 10 till you finish step 9. Like, I was 45 when I did my 4th step. That was a lot of people. And I couldn't necessarily get hold of those people. I couldn't find those people from earlier on in my life when I was living in different places, and I wanted to reach out to them. So what step 9 is about is being able to make those amends. If you run into that person, if the opportunity arises, you're ready and you can have that conversation. And so even years later, go ahead and make those amends, and now marked them off your 8th step. It could take years. It could take a lifetime. You may never get completely done making amends. We make a living amends, but that doesn't keep us from moving on to step 10 and 11 and 12 and living in step 12, which is what you and I are both doing right now. We're carrying the message of recovery. We're practicing these principles in all our affairs. And I love that you mentioned you do the AA and the smart recovery, because that is recovery by any means necessary. It doesn't matter what the program is. It doesn't matter how somebody gets clean. It matters that they get clean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say this because I believe it for my own recovery that everyone's recovery looks different. What worked for you may not work for me. I would take the suggestion, but if it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for me. And I think everyone, if they do the steps, some people go through the steps, it takes a year. Some people take 25 years. Everyone's recovery looks different. And my mom passed before I was able to make amends with her. Just by living this way, I make amends to my mom every day. So I'm practicing those steps every single day. So I
Right.
just think that everyone's recovery looks different. And this is what's working for me. And that humility that I was talking about and that connection, if I didn't have those weapons of humility and connection, I would never be able to do what I did last night. It was a beautiful moment for me that I actually spoke about it when I was chairing my AA meeting this morning, because it meant a lot to me. So yeah, everyone's recovery looks different, and I'm happy that I'm able to even be alive today to make amends, and it's all because of my recovery.
I'm happy you're here too to be able to do it. Talk about what you've tried that didn't work for you. You work your program the way you work your program. I work mine the way I work mine. And we're both familiar with all number of modalities, which is great, because that just allows us to help other people get through their recovery. But what did you personally try and then say, nah, that's not going to work for me, and then do what you do now?
This is actually a good one. I tried to recover silently.
Mm.
When I first moved back to Connecticut, I got my first job in human services in DMIS, which is the Department of Mental Health and Human Services. I tried to cover up my life. I didn't tell anyone my husband was in jail. I didn't tell anyone that I was homeless. I didn't tell anyone that I was in recovery. Even though my title had the RSS at the end, I just was like, oh, I have lived experience. My dad had substance use disorder, and my family had. I never was honest, and I was ashamed still. After 2 years of being in recovery, I was still ashamed to share my recovery, and I did not recover out loud. Once I started recovering out loud and telling people my story and where I've been and how I got here and what I'm doing now, that's when the beautiful things started happening for me. Telling people, hey, listen, I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm not ashamed that I died 3 times and OD'd. I'm not ashamed that I was homeless and stealing and doing all these things, because that makes me who I am today, and it makes me able to save lives and help other people who were where I was, maybe not the same situation, but suffering.
Right.
So that was what didn't work for me, being ashamed and not recovering out loud. And now that I'm able to be in the position that I could recover loudly, and this saves lives. What you're doing, Jenna, is saving lives. Like starving the demon, the pot, everything, having me here right now. Even if we touch one person, it's a saving a life. So I think it's an amazing thing, and that's what I didn't work for me.
Well, I agree. I mean, I embraced my addiction. I was the last to know. It wasn't a secret, right? So in recovery, I deal with, Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. Those programs are anonymous. I am not anonymous. Anybody that knows me knows this is who I am. This is what I'm about. And I sing it on a mountain, much to the chagrin of like my mom, but she'll be strong.
Some people are like, oh my God, Mary, did you just say that? Did you just admit that? But I'm like, you know what? This is my life. Listen, I'm not embarrassed anymore. I'm not ashamed anymore. And
Good.
that's like that was a big hurdle to overcome for many years in my recovery.
All those skeletons in your closet, those are warriors in your army now.
Right. I love that. You're right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
As a woman, do you think you have different expectations or obstacles in recovery than men do?
Think that recovery is very different for men and women. I've said this for a while now. I think that men and women use for different reasons. I do think it's harder for women. Even growing up in a big Italian family, most of the men were alcoholics or drug users, right? I can't even imagine if one of my aunts or my female cousins or my grandma was like drank too much and acted like an animal and like got violent. It would have been like, oh my God, clutch your pearls. This is a woman. Like, so I think it is very different. Women with our disease have a little bit of more of a challenge because in society, women just are supposed to be everything for everyone, mothers, wives. So when we have to admit that we have a disease and we're struggling, who comes to save us? We have to save us. Like we have to be our own heroes. I feel like there is a stigma and a shame that encompasses women in recovery.
Right, especially mothers. You have children. How could you act like that?
I know firsthand because I'm a mom of three. I remember in that horrible treatment center in New Jersey, I was very early in my recovery, so I was still angry and I had a fight with one of the clients. And, the first thing she said to me, your children should be disappointed. She knew that that's what would hurt me the most. And it
Mm.
did. Like, oh God, I had an RA held me back and everything, but I was laced up, strapped. I was ready to go.
I could picture you so much more laced up than clutching your pearls. I'll tell you that right
Well,
now.
yeah. Well, now I would pray for her, but back then I was angry. So and she knew what to hurt me. But that was a lot of my embarrassment and shame comes from that too, because wow, you have three kids, you're shooting heroin, crazy.
Right. And there's men out there that have those same three kids. I mean, I think fathers go through it too, dealing in treatment. I hear a lot of men, they lament about the families that are waiting for them or the kids they don't have relationships with. It's a sad situation, no matter which parent it is. And I know for the children involved, like, we cannot know what that child's childhood, the trauma that we have inflicted on our children. We may never know. And all we can do, like you said about with your mom, we make a living amends. We live a life so that we do not inflict that on anybody ever again, ever. And really, that's the best we can do because we can't go back and make a better past, right? But we can make a great today and a great tomorrow.
Right. So I'm happy you touched on that. I do that every because when my husband got arrested and I had to go to treatment, my kids were left without a mom and a dad, right? So I make that living amends to them every day, and the way I do that is showing up for myself, showing up for them every single day, and being the mom I couldn't be. I was out of my kids' life for a year. I was in Florida, and they were here for that whole year. They didn't have me present. It was probably the most selfless decision I could have made for them because I couldn't even show up for myself, let alone my three children.
Right. And I hear that a lot. Well, I can't go to rehab because of my kids. Okay, but you're not there for your kids anyway. You're there to get high. Your demon's telling you, oh, you can't go to rehab because of your kids. No, no, no. Your demon just wants you to stay out getting high because it's trying to kill you. And that's what it uses to go, oh, no, I can't be away from my kids. But just being there with your kids is not the same as being there for your kids. It's not the same as being present. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think the best thing that you can do is get clean because you're talking about 1 year of their life versus their entire lives. Finding you dead with a needle in your arm somewhere. What's that going to do to them? But we don't think about that. We're in the middle of it, right?
Yeah, I'm there for my kids every day now, and it's probably one of the best gifts I could have gotten in recovery is being here, I'm cooking dinner at night, or I tried potty train. I complain about it sometimes, but I'm so grateful that I could do this right now. I'm so grateful that I have to rush and pick up my kids because I was not able to do that a couple of years ago.
Right, right. Now, what is your clean date?
August 26th, 2022.
Right on. Right on, girl. Today is my sober date, by the way. Today's my
It
6th year.
is. Congratulations.
And isn't tomorrow your birthday?
Tomorrow's my
Happy
birthday.
birthday! Everybody say
Thank
happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you so
Finish.
much.
Listen, the birthday song, it isn't very long. Hey, so happy birthday.
I love it. Thank you. Happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you. And being in the business, the statistics say that once you hit that 5-year mark, you are that much less likely to relapse. But you could have 30 years and go out again.
Yeah, it's a big deal. 5 years is a big deal.
5 years is a big freaking deal. So I made it through my fifth year and now I got six. And I'm like, yeah. So, okay, let me ask you this. Was faith a part of your journey? Did you find God? Did God find you?
I definitely think faith absolutely was part of my journey. I grew up Catholic. And I definitely believe in God, higher power. I don't know all the answers. I'm a control freak, 100%. So once I gave that control up and said, whatever happens, happens, I'm going to have faith that it's going to work out. That's when all the things started happening. Um, I didn't want to go to Florida. I didn't want to go to treatment. I didn't want to be away from my kids. I didn't want to come back to Connecticut after being in Florida. I wanted to stay in Florida. But I had faith that wherever my higher power and God led me, it was going to work out. That's how I practice right now. I can't control what happens tomorrow. I can't control what my kids are going to want for dinner tonight. You know what I mean? Yeah, so faith has played and it's a major factor in my recovery. I had to put down that control and I had to have faith that everything is going to work out. Maybe not as fast as I want because that's addict mentality. I want it right now and I'm having it right the fuck now. That's it. But faith is what said, put that control down and let everything happen the way it's supposed to. Trust in your higher power, trust in God, and I did, and it led me to be here and with you.
It's awesome. There's a phrase I heard, I don't know where I picked it up. Everything works out. It may not work out the way you want it to, but it's going to work out.
You may have told me that before.
I may have, probably. There's nothing I say that's new. I picked it up somewhere. I didn't make it up. I picked it up.
Me too, yeah. We have to spread those things. I always say all the corny things you hear in the rooms. I find myself quoting the stuff that I've heard in the rooms all the time.
My sponsor used to say to me in the beginning, Jen, you got to live and let live. And I'd say, I let her live. What do you want? It's the best I could do in the moment. But it's pause during agitation. Those were the two I heard out on my sponsor the most because I stayed agitated. I stayed trying to drag a bitch, you know?
Right, right. I know that. We come a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying, I did a live today on Facebook on my way driving home from work because I just want to thank everybody. I got 5,000 views on my channel. Yeah, not enough subscribers to do live on YouTube, but I could do it on my Facebook. And this car almost pulled out right in front of me. And I was like, what the? And I just turned the camera. I was like, see how I didn't snatch them up out of their car? That's spiritual growth.
Yes, it is.
I'm just going to keep on driving.
Yeah, to see that's a gift of recovery too. Even now, like there's times I'm like, oh God, I wish I could just bring back the old Mary and just like, knock you the hell out, but I won't because I live a spiritual life now and I'll pray for you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Do you know, I say to my husband all the time, I say, baby, we're not going to jail today. And he'll just, all right. I will talk him down till the cows come home. But the minute he gets out the car, I'm out the car. If he's rolling, I'm rolling, you know?
100% ride or die.
Yeah, ride or die. Exactly. If I run, you run. We'll talk
Yep.
about it later,
Live by the
girl.
same values.
I can't tell you how many of my stories start with when I was in prison or end with, and I was asked never to return. So, okay, enough about me. So, how do you help clients who feel spiritually lost or abandoned?
Allowing for them to know that I've been there too. You're not alone. I'm here to support you and not throwing too many suggestions at them, not telling them this is what you need to do, this is what works. No, I just feel like I hear them. I talk less. I listen to what they're going through. If I could relate at the end, I tell them what has worked for me, a suggestion maybe. And I just think by being there and supporting people and meeting them where they're at, that's important. Meeting people where they're at. They may not be ready to go to treatment. They may not be ready to stop using. For example, if they're not ready to stop using, my biggest thing is to never use alone. I mean, some people will be like, well, Mary, you're kind of like saying it's okay to use. No, I'm saying I don't want you to die. So if you're going to use, carry Narcan. Look in my office all the time. Narcan saves lives, saved my life 3 times. So carry Narcan, carry the fentanyl strips. If you're going to use, let's be smart about it until you're ready, meeting them where they're at. And I think that's very important because I think that's kind of a new idea. Maybe not new, but a lot of people would say, hey, I feel like, are you telling this person that they can use just as long as they have a buddy to do it with? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, listen, when I did use, I died and I don't want you to die. Until you're ready to stop using, let's do it the smart way.
Well, and I think what you're talking about is harm reduction. One of my brothers I was talking to yesterday, his best friend is dealing with alcoholism. He's in the rooms. He's on like third step of AA. And my brother had a question for me about, he's like, but listen, I don't know how I feel about this. He's smoking weed. And I said, okay, like I'm not going to judge somebody,
Right.
right? Like if somebody's on medically assisted treatment or they're smoking weed, but they're not shooting heroin, look, harm reduction. The guy, I guess he's had some kind of surgery and he smokes the weed, but he doesn't take any kind of painkillers or opioids. So if you ask me, that's 1,000% a better thing to do. Am I saying it's okay to smoke weed? I'm not the guy's sponsor. I'm not the guy's doctor. It's not for me to say. But if it was my friend, I'd be like, look, if you're in pain, you're going to smoke weed instead of taking opioids. You do what you got to do. I'd much rather know that you're smoking a joint than I might walk in your house and find you OD'd on opioids.
Right.
So yeah, I'm going to go with harm reduction.
Right. Especially if we're working this field, I think that's the school of thought that we should follow because I feel like when somebody hears you're smoking weed, you're still in active addiction, and coming from a place of judginess, even if you don't intend to, could turn someone away from finding their recovery.
I agree. I think especially in this day and age where we're dealing with this opioid crisis and just West Palm Beach last Monday, 3 fentanyl deaths within hours of each other in that small little town. It's an epidemic and I don't know what the answer is. I do know that that's one of the reasons why I started doing this. Recovery by any means necessary. Whatever you're doing that's keeping you clean, keep doing that.
Right, exactly. And that's exactly how I feel. I had one of my friends, dad just had his second OD in the last 6 weeks. And he's been a heroin user for years, maybe 30 years, right? And obviously they're putting fentanyl in everything now. So what he got 20 years ago is not the same thing he's getting now. And
Right.
so she was crying. She was like, "What do I do? My parents will not go to treatment. Like, what do I do?" And the only thing I could have told her was like, "Get fentanyl strips. I'll help you get fentanyl strips to test the heroin they're using. Make sure they always have Narcan on them. Make sure they use together. It's very important because maybe if they had fentanyl strips, they'd be like, oh shit, maybe I don't want to use it because this has fentanyl in it. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not because people actually go out and search for the fentanyl now. But maybe not. I don't know what the answer is either. But I know that the answer is not to be judgmental. And harm reduction is very important because that too saves lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay, let me ask you this. What's one lie people believe about addiction or recovery that drives you nuts?
So I will say this. I did not touch heroin until I was 32, right? And my husband was using before I was. And I remember him nodding out. I remember the first time I seen him shoot up and I'm like, wow, this is disgusting, right? So I was that person. I was the judgy person who did not understand addiction before I started using. And I remember telling him, wow, why can't you just stop? You do not love me. You do not love our
Mm,
kids. You are weak. And those are the biggest lies. Of course he loved me. Of course he loved his family. Of course he wasn't weak. Of course he could not just stop. Um, I tell him now, I'm like, I am so sorry for the way I treated you while you were using and I did not understand addiction. It was wrong. And now that I understand it because I went through it, you're not weak. You do love people. You are loved. And so those are the biggest lies. We can't just stop. If
right.
we could just stop, this world would be a completely different place. There
And we'd
wouldn't
be out of jobs.
we'd be out of jobs. Centers would be bankrupt. Like so you cannot just stop. It's a disease and it takes a village to help and support someone and their disease. So yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderfully said. I agree 1,000%. I would love to walk into work one day and be told, "Oh, we're shutting down. Addiction got cured. Awesome.
Right.
I'll go do something else with myself." But it's unfortunately it's a growth industry.
A lot of people have this disease.
So now, if you could sit with the woman you used to be, what would you tell her?
You just gave me chills. That was a question right there. I would tell her to be easy on myself. I would tell her that it's going to be okay. It will work out, and to fight for myself a little harder.
Right on. What do you want your clients, your kids, or the world to remember about you?
That I struggled and I was able to overcome those struggles because of love and connection and recovery. that it's okay to struggle and it's okay to make mistakes. It makes me who I am. I've thought about this a lot. Am I ever going to tell my kids that I used to do drugs? And I absolutely am, because I want them to know what I've been through, how I overcame that, and what I do every single day to fight those demons, because I fight them every day. I fight my depression, I fight my trauma, and I fight my addiction. So I want them to know that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to have demons, but it's how you connect and recover. Your journey's not going to always be a straight road with white picket fences and, unicorns, and it's gonna suck sometimes, and it's okay. So I guess I want them to know my story, and I want them to know my journey, because it makes me the mom I am, and the woman I am, the friend I am.
Listen, you said so much there, and I think you're 1,000% right. You have to talk to your kids and let them know. Many reasons. Addiction has a hereditary element to it, right? So the fact that both you and their father have gone through this, and you said yourself, you have family members that have gone through this, that's a conversation that you're going to want to have with them before they get to the age of going out and partying. I had a lady I was locked up with back when I was in prison. See, here's one. I had a cellie who her daughter was going off to college, and she was very concerned that her daughter was going to start using drugs because of the fact that she was locked up. Like, my daughter's going to be so anxious and depressed, and she's gonna do drugs. I'm like, that's not why your daughter's going to do drugs. Your daughter's going to do drugs because she's going to go to a party, and everybody's going to be having a good time, and some cute boy's going to offer her something, and she's going to take it. That's how we start doing drugs. It's not because we're so depressed and woe is me. It's not how I started. You have to talk to them before they get to that age where they might go to that party. And in the wrong place, the wrong time, doing the wrong thing, bad things happen. But the fact that you were in a situation where you needed help and you had the courage to ask for that help and then accept that help, that's going to let them know that if and when they fall somehow, hopefully not as bad as we did, but people stumble and struggle and fall in their life, especially as they're growing up. They're going to know that you're going to understand. They're going to know that they can come to you when they need help and that you will be there to give them that help. And you're imparting on them not the shame and the guilt and the misery of addiction, but the safety and the joy that comes in recovery.
You said it beautifully. I want my kids to know that if they fall, it's okay. I fell. I picked myself up and I found recovery, and that's where the beauty lies. Like, it's okay to fall because you pick yourself up. I feel like, especially parents who are in recovery, they have a one up on people who aren't in recovery, because maybe they could see the signs sooner. Before I started using, I didn't know what the signs were. I falling asleep and nodding out. I'm like, oh my God, he's tired, man. What's wrong? What does he have? Like narcolepsy, whatever that is, where you fall asleep. I didn't understand it. So we have like a little bit of a one up on other parents, right? Because we know the signs. And also, it goes back to the recovering out loud. I want my kids to know that I know. I want my kids to know where I've been through and what I've seen and what I've done, because I want them to be like, all right, mom has gone through this, dad has gone through this. These are the people that I need to talk to about what I've done or what I'm going through. And so I think that it's important to tell my kids, and because I've been there.
And they're not going to get over on you. If they happen to come home drunk or high, you're going to spot it. Good luck getting over on mom.
I remember when I first went into the treatment center where I was a client and you were my tech, right? All the women were like, oh my God, Jenna is scary. She's like a drill sergeant. She's going to yell at you. Wait till you hear her in the morning. You put the fear of God into people. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going into right now? She's going to be like a CO. But you know what? We need how you are. We need that. I needed that. And that's why I'm so grateful for you, because you work hard on me, and it was a beautiful thing. And that's how, going back to parenting style, you need to be hard on your kids like that a little bit, especially because you've been there, you've done that stuff, going in that same path. If we could kind of divert them a little bit, if we have any kind of control over it, which I know we probably don't, but we want to do that. So I remember that. I remember it like yesterday. I'm like, oh my God, Jen.
But then you met me. Listen, I've been called a recovery Nazi more times than I can count, and I wear that like a badge of honor. You're right. I could turn any conversation back to recovery. What do you got? But also, because of my life experience and knowing women, listen, when we're in our addiction, and we're out there and our demon is strong, what we get over. We get over, we get over, we get over. And it's important in that treatment facility to understand that you're not getting over on me. I see you. Right. I see you. I can see your demon and he hates me. So I'm gonna fight him for you till you can get it together and start fighting him yourself.
And that's exactly what you do, and I'm so grateful for that.
And also, tough love is for people that you believe can do it. Here's the expectation, and I have all the confidence in the world that you can meet it. And I'm not going to allow you to act like you can't, because I know that you can. I know that you can.
And that's exactly how I felt when I was a client, and I wanted to let you know that I appreciate all of you done and how you supported, and when you were hard on me, I appreciated that
Well,
because I
thank
needed
you.
it. We need that. So accountability and that support, it may not feel like that in early recovery, but that's what it is. It's love. So I appreciated it.
Well, I'm glad it all stems from love. I have so much love for every addict, any addict trying to get it together. I've nothing but love. And I would say sometimes my love feels like a great big warm hug. Sometimes my love feels like a foot up your ass. It's still love.
The love. Yeah, exactly.
Since we're talking about you being a client, this is an interesting thing I'm going to tell the audience about. So I work in treatment, and Mary had come to Florida, like she said, and she was in the treatment center and she did well there. And then she went into our sober living home and she did so well there that she actually became the sober living manager. She's like running stuff. Now she's staff. She's one of us, right? And I had a situation at home. My husband had relapsed and I could not be at home because I'm not going to be around that. I can't have that in my life. So I had took my dogs and went to a hotel, and it was very expensive, and I was hoping it was going to be for a day or two, and it lasted longer than that. So I ended up calling my job and saying, "Hey, this is what's going on." And there happened to be an empty bed at sober living, and they said, "You can't take the dogs." I had to put the dogs in a kennel, but you can go there. And so we went from me being the house mom for Mary to her being the house mom when I putting my recovery into action. What did I do? I had a crisis. I called on my sober network. I called on people to help me. I said, I need help. And I took the help that was offered to me, and I was able to get through it. And I eventually did go home. My husband got clean. Everything's great. Yay. You know,
Well, it works out.
so, but that's an interesting little circle that we made there.
It was, and it was cool. It was almost nice to see because now I had a little bit of time underneath my belt at that point. I had like, I think 6, 7 months. So we were peers, and it was a beautiful thing. And you've taught me with that just reach out, reach out to the people in recovery, and you did, and it taught me that's it's so easy. Just all you gotta do is stay connected, reach out, and that's what you did. In early recovery, you were my you were my house mom, right? So I never felt like I was running the house when you were in it. It was nice to engage with you on that level. It was different than when I was a client. It was different, and it
Right.
was more of a peer thing. And I really value that time we had together, and the friendship we have made. That's throughout the years, especially that time. And it was nice. It was nice to have like a peer to peer relationship.
Yeah, and I didn't go in there like, "Oh, I'm going to run this." No,
Oh,
that was your world in there. I was just trying to keep it together. It was important to me because the other girls that were in there, I think there was one girl that I didn't know, but the other girls that were in there were girls that like had gone through the program. So like they knew me. Like I think the day after I got there, one of the girls from the house that I worked at was coming over. I don't remember exactly, but I remember saying to myself, you know what? You've got to hold your head up. You have got to show these people how recovery works. You can't fall apart now.
yeah. And that was like the humility part that we were talking about before. You were humble. You said, this is how it works. I needed help. I was in a situation that wasn't good for my recovery. And right now, this is working for me. And you always kept your head up. And I respect that so much about you. I was chairing an AA meeting, and one of the old timers said, "There is nothing that goes on wrong in my life right now that I know that I can't just pick up a phone and call another person in the program to help me with."
Right.
And it's true. And that's what you did. And you were humble and you were asking for help. And it's all about that. So we're like a family. You know what I mean? You may not know the person who's sitting to the right of me in a meeting, but I love that person because I
Right.
know they have the same disease I have, and I know they have some similar struggles, and I love them, and it's all about connection and love.
That was hard for me. That was embarrassing for me. But what else was I going to do? I wasn't going to stay home.
So you had to do what you had to do,
Right, right.
and I love that you were there.
I had fun. We actually had fun. I took the girls to meetings.
Yep,
It was cool.
we went to more meetings with you there, so that was nice.
I guess I had a car. I
Exactly.
tried to get the girls sponsors at the, you know me. I'm just like
I
pushy.
remember
I'm a
that.
pushy broad.
We did. We tried to get them sponsors. Yep.
So we talked about the cliches before. What motto gets you through? What's the mantra that you use to get through?
Give it to God, give it to your higher power, whoever you want to give it to, don't give it to yourself, right? When I have to make a big decision, I do not act impulsively. I do not make decisions based on feelings. Feelings are a fact.
Feelings aren't facts. God, my husband hates it when I say that.
Yeah, my husband hates it too. So I don't make decisions when I'm in a big emotion. Like if I'm angry or even when I'm like really happy, I try to be like, let's sit in it for a second and give it to God, give it to your higher power. I'm very intentful with my words. And my decisions, make my decisions with a sound mind. I make sure I sleep on it, think about it, give it to God, give it to my higher power, talk to my mom about it. Talk to my mom all the time. I giving it to whoever is upstairs or around watching over me. So,
That's awesome.
hmm
Is there something you'd like to tell the audience?
I guess for people who are struggling right now, for people who feel like there's no hope, I felt like that. I remember sitting in my car, homeless, and just coming down off of shooting up, feeling like this is it for me. I cannot save myself. This is how my life is going to be until the day I die. I won't have my kids. I'm just done. I have no life. I'm going to be a drug user for the rest of my life. And I had no hope. And I just want to tell people that if you're feeling like that, for even if not for drugs, for mental health reasons, for anything, there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, even if you can't see that finish line. I remember telling my aunt, who was very instrumental into my recovery, I keep running and I cannot see the finish line. I used to tell her that all the time. I still don't see the finish line, but the difference is that I know that there's a finish line now. I know that I keep running and you know what? I sprint, I run, I walk, I mosey on down my path, but I know that there's a finish line now. And I didn't know that when I was in early recovery. I used to say it to her, no, there's no finish line, man. There is a finish line. You have to have hope. You have to have faith. Your disease, you can't control it. You got to just admit the first step. What's the first step, Jenna?
Admit that we're powerless and that our lives are unmanageable.
Exactly. And once you give over that control and admit this, everything just falls into place and recovery is so beautiful. I'm grateful for my recovery every single day. I did not think I would get here. I did not think I would recover. I say my gratefulness every night because I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for you, for all the people who have been part of my journey, for myself, for having the willpower to keep fighting.
Do you have daily recovery routine, like certain things that you do every single day?
I do every night. Me and my daughter Phoenix say the Serenity Prayer. Every
Awesome.
night without fail. She knows the Serenity Prayer word for word, and we both say, I'm grateful for. So that we do every night, and it helps me in my recovery. And I'm also teaching my daughter how to be grateful and, you know, talk to our higher power, God, just not when we need something, but always.
Right.
And I mean, every day I'm helping my people. They encounter at least one person every single day, and I'm able to be in a position to help people every day. I do wake up every day with an intent to give back what was given to me, and that is recovery and life, hope. So
Hope's big. Hope's big. I used to say about the van, we're holding it together with silly string and hope. So don't run out of hope because we can get more silly string.
I like that.
Well, this is what Starve the Demon is all about. Raw truth, relentless hope, and real people choosing recovery by any means necessary. If Mary's story lit a fire under you, don't let it die out. Reach out, speak up, fight back. The demon only wins if you stay silent. That's how you feed it, just like you do with anger and resentment, isolation. Silence will feed that demon and make it strong. Until next time, starve the demon, feed your soul, Sometimes you got to embrace the suck, love everybody, and let God sort them out. Thanks for coming.